Hey there. Welcome to Leadership Portraits. My name is Jennifer Wright. I'm your host. I'm here with Doree O'Neill. Doree is going to be joining us today and talking about leadership, of course. But she has some really interesting perspective. She has done a lot of things from a career perspective, but she is also in the process of becoming an entrepreneur and building her business. So we're going to talk a little bit about her leadership experience from her career perspective, but then also leadership from the perspective of how does that work when you're kind of going out on your own and you're building a new business? So welcome, Doree. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me here. I appreciate it.
So tell us a little bit about you and who you are, what you enjoy.
Okay. Well, I'm Doree O'Neill. I am actually a native of Georgia, which I think I'm a real Georgia peach. Yep, it's true.
Nice.
And I started out, let me tell you a little bit about my career. I started out after college. I had undergrad in psychology. I was an art major who turned into an undergrad in psychology and graduated college and went, I don't know what I'm going to do with this degree. I knew that I didn't want to go into human resources, but I wasn't really sure what my next step was going to be. And so my mother was like, you've got to get a job. I went to, it was a company called Kelly Services at the time. I think now they're called Kelly now.
I remember. I was the Kelly girl.
You're a Kelly girl too.
And
And so they were like, let's go. Why don't you start at this cellular company, cellular wireless company, and they need somebody to just come in for the day and make copies. So I went in to make copies for one day. The CFO needed an admin, and long story short, I was hired, and that's how I got my break into the corporate world, was by being a temp for one day making copies.
You know what? I can completely relate to that. That sounds very similar to my story. So, I started out as a temp and, it just kind of, the ball rolled from there.
I tell a lot of people, especially young people that are graduating college, look, don't necessarily maybe look at this as trying to go out and find something full-time right away. Go the contractor route, go the temp route, so that you can experience for each other, do I like this company? Does this company like me? And it can become more of a win-win. I was so blessed that the CFO of the company was one of those people that just was really big into mentorship and being a mentor. Even
awesome.
He's even said to me, I don't want to see you sitting in this chair in 2 years. So you're in the perfect position to be able to look and see what you want to do within the corporate world. Being a CFO's admin, I got to see marketing, finance, accounting, and all of those different areas. And I later went to him. It was when the internet was becoming big, and I know I'm aging myself by saying that, but the internet was becoming big, and I said I want to get into the web. I want to get into the internet and the intranet, and he was fully supportive, and that's how I got it. That's how I got into IT and corporate. Yeah.
Let's talk just a little bit about mentorship.
Yep.
Mentorship to me, that's one of the things I always recommend. Young people find a mentor, be a mentor, as you come up in your career. Mentorship is so important, I believe. So tell us a little bit about your experiences with mentorship. Do you have and you talked about the one manager you had. How have mentors really kind of influenced you and helped you throughout your career?
I've had a handful of who I would consider to be mentors. It's kind of funny because you have a lot of programs in corporate America where they assign you a buddy or here's your a mentor. But I think sometimes what is it that the teacher finds you, and you sort of, there's just something that they're coming together where you're learning from someone. And I had a couple of really great mentors in my that just took me under their wing. And I
Yeah.
think that that's a big, it wasn't a telling me what to do. It was,
Yeah.
let me show you, let me show you how I do what I do. Let me give you a little bit of that responsibility, but I'm going to be here to guide you along and not necessarily tell you what to do.
Right.
So you're going to be able to, succeed on your own, but also I'm here if you hit any bumps along the road. And I think that for me, that was the key part of having a really good mentor, was someone that was just saw the vision for me sometimes when I couldn't even see it myself,
Mm.
and just said, where let's go down this road and let's try it this way, and that's not working, so let's move it this way. And it really was there to just support. It's about support.
Yeah. Mentors to me, and sometimes you have mentors that you don't necessarily even consider mentors.
Mhm.
You might have those mentors that are like, these are my mentors, but then there are those people in your life that just sort of play the role.
Mhm.
I have several of those and have had, throughout my career, people that I go to for advice, and who have kind of been there, done that.
Mhm.
And I think it's just, none of us can do anything completely on our own. We have to, kind of seek out those people. And I think that's a key to becoming a great leader, is knowing when you need help and how to get that help and that support.
Absolutely. I've got two stepdaughters, and they just graduated high school in May of last year. And one of them has decided to go her own route
Mhm.
and find her own way in this world. And we're fully supportive of that. But in the same token, it doesn't have to be that hard.
Yeah.
And so finding the right
Yeah.
person, and it doesn't have to be a parent, especially, when it
Right.
comes to college kids, high school kids, it doesn't have to be a parent. It doesn't even have to be an adult figure. Sometimes it
Right.
could be someone that's a few years older, that's just already been down that route, that can just, offer ideas, bounce ideas off it.
Right.
It's not a telling somebody what to do.
Right.
And I think that that's where a lot of people get confused with being a mentor in any realm,
Mhm.
is they think, oh, I'm your mentor, I'm going to tell you what to do, what's best for you. It's a learning experience. And a lot of times the mentor and the mentee relationship flips at some point, and you find out that they're learning from you as well. And that's when it's a really good relationship.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think we've all had
Mhm.
those situations where it, the teacher becomes the student, and I've even had it myself with people I have mentored.
Mhm.
And quite honestly, I've learned as much from my mentees as I have learned from my mentors.
Mhm. Mhm.
There's a lot that we all can teach each other.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Mhm.
And it doesn't matter what level of experience you have in certain areas. I've had, instances in my life where it's no surprise, I think, to anybody. I'm in sobriety, and one of the things I had to learn in those instances was, I was in a meeting and my sponsor was like, go talk to that woman. I'm like, but I only have 7 days. And this woman had a day, and she said, well, you have 6 more days
Huh?
than that person. So we always have something to teach one another. It's just a matter of being able to, get your ego out of the way, go with a kind heart, and go from a position of giving, but also being open to receive whatever it is
Yeah.
that they have to offer you as well.
Right. I totally agree. So as you have kind of come up through your career, and even now, what what are some of the things that you have found, some of the skills that you have found that um have become very important to you? So like, if you were talking to yourself at 25, what advice would you give yourself? What skills would you tell yourself that you need to learn this?
Put the drink down. Um, no, I would say, just being open to whatever life's experiences are coming, being able to appreciate that different people bring different perspectives to the table.
Right.
Everybody has their own life story, their own way that they view the world, and being able to respect that and appreciate that and be open to the fact that you may just learn something.
Yeah.
There's another saying that we have is just take the cotton out of your ears and stick it in your mouth. Is one of the sayings that we had in AA. It's just listen to what other people are saying, because, and I think that it makes is such a huge thing for being a leader, for being a responsible employee,
Right.
for being an entrepreneur. Is
Right.
being able to, as entrepreneurs, we now have to listen to what is it our people are needing? What do they want?
Yeah.
And being able to modify who we are sometimes to be able to give them exactly what it is that they need. So that's one of the things that I've just found. And maybe that's the lesson is take the cotton out of your ears and put it in your mouth.
Yeah. Listen more than you talk.
Listen more than you talk.
Yes. Yeah. I love it. I love it. What have you found to be some of your biggest challenges from a leadership perspective, or even just life?
In a leadership role, I think sometimes not getting ahead of myself. There have been a lot of times as a leader where I wanted to take it all on and be, I'm going to make a change and I'm going to make a difference. And I find that a lot of leaders that come into corporate America, especially, in higher leadership positions, as they come in and they want to make their mark, but they come in and I say this because I've been there, done that myself. I want to come in, I want to make my mark. Well, I'm not taking into account that change is hard. And especially when it's something people have been doing for a very long time, coming in with a little more kinder approach, a little more sensitive approach, and being able to figure out maybe they're not doing everything wrong. Making your mark doesn't mean you have to change everything. Maybe there's some things that are going right, and being able to make those changes with that in mind.
There have been so many times that, just like you say, change is hard. Change is happening at such a pace right now. But we also have to think about humans.
Yes.
And we also have to think about, leadership is really making those connections and making those human connections so that you can relate to people and influence them and get them to do the things that need to be done. And it's not always about directing.
Right. We were talking a little bit about this before, but before we started recording, we were talking about being the difference between a manager,
right,
and a leader. Sometimes your leaders are not managers. They're the people that quietly influence a group, because the way I look at a leader is that it's someone that you admire, and not from a perspective of they've got all the money that I want. They've got, maybe that too, but they've got that something about them that you're like, I aspire to be like that. And you're willing to go because you have like very similar beliefs, and their passion is your passion, and you aspire to be like them and with them, and you will follow them anywhere. There's a lot of managers out there that people don't want to follow anywhere, not even to the bathroom, or to the coffee bar. There's a big difference, and your leaders can actually be the people that are reporting to you.
Absolutely. The other thing I find interesting is so many times we take someone who is technically good at their job. and they've mastered what they do. And we think the next reasonable step is to put them into a leadership position. And oftentimes that it may not be a mistake, but it may be a mistake at that time. And we're not preparing people to become managers or leaders. And we're not really giving them the skill sets that they need to be able to now become the influencers and be able to get the people in their organization to follow them.
Yeah, that absolutely. I've seen it time and time again. Software is my background. And especially in the software world, you think about it, there's a lot of technical people that know how to technically do what's necessary to be done. But what's their next step in their career? Well, history says you've got to be a manager. So
Right.
people are shoving square pegs into round holes, making people managers, not preparing them, but also maybe even forcing them into something that they don't want to do, but they have nowhere else to
Right.
go. I worked at a telecom company that actually did something a little bit different. I was very pleased with this. They had 2 tracks. You had a management track and you had a technical track. And the technical track, you could go up to very, very high levels. A lot of times the pay was way much more on the technical track than it was the manager track. But that's the other thing too. People see salary, they see title, they see all these different things, but they're putting themselves in a miserable position because it's not something they really want to do. Or like you said, they're not getting prepared to be there. So having those 2 different tracks was really an amazing thing because you had people that were architects and they were born to be architects. They could care less about hosting a meeting, having a performance review, all of those different things. This gave them the opportunities to rise in the organization, still make really nice money, and not have to deal with the overhead of being a manager.
I've worked in both kinds of organizations. And for someone who wants to remain an individual contributor, sometimes it can be very frustrating because if you don't have those opportunities without becoming a manager, and there are many organizations that's how they operate. In order for you to get to the next level in your career, you have to become a manager. And I think we're doing a disservice to a lot of our really, really good people out there by forcing them into that track if that's not something that they even want.
So you're creating a situation, then thinking about the people that have to work for someone like that, reporting to someone who was never meant to be a manager, who didn't want to be a leader or a manager. There's nothing wrong with that. And that's the other thing too, is the whole stigma around manager leadership, all of these different titles and things like that. Be a leader as an individual contributor.
Right.
I think that if we could change the way that titles are perceived and compensation that goes with titles and all of those different things, and allow people to be who they want to be. And then if they want to be a manager, give them leadership training. Teach them what it means to be a leader. Being a manager doesn't mean I'm in power. The best managers and leaders I've had, the people underneath were the ones that are in control. You're just there to support them and help them get through any roadblocks that get in their way.
Yeah. So I'm curious. You and I have lived kind of there's been a little bit of parallelness in our lives. I mean, we've both done the corporate thing. We're both now exploring entrepreneurship. How are you finding the leadership skills and other skills that you've learned through your career to now apply to what you're doing in building your business and all of the things that go with that, the networking, the Just all of the things that you have to do. It is a very different kind of approach.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it definitely is. It's challenged me in a different way.
Yeah.
You know, in the corporate world, in the software world, I know what I'm doing. And it's easy to s- kind of take that for granted, I guess, as you start working through your career and you're like, okay, now I know what I'm doing. Now I know this. But being able to still now use those skills that you use to be able to drum up new business.
Yeah.
And you nailed it. It's networking. It's social media. It's meeting new people.
Mhm.
It's pulling this introvert and just saying, "Hey, sister, you're gonna have to take a back seat for tonight. We're gonna be an extrovert tonight, and we're gonna go out. And we're gonna meet people." But it's also being able to not be afraid to stand up and talk about the things that you're passionate about. Me as a coach, I I had to become very comfortable with what I coach and being able to talk about it with the same level of confidence because people, you have to still show up as a leader in whatever industry that you choose to go in coaching, seen as someone that knows, I know, I know what I'm doing. Trust me. That's another thing too, right? With leadership is trust. And people are not going to hire a coach they don't trust. So being able to instill confidence, trust, and all of those different things. I had to find it within inside myself first before I could start projecting it out there. So it was a new learning experience, taking 25 years of being in the software industry and now being a coach and finding out what that means and being able to then stand up and go, okay, yeah, this is now who I am. I'm good.
So tell us a little bit about that. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing. You say you're a coach.
Mhm.
What do you coach?
Stress
How do you help people?
So I help professionals that are having issues managing stress and anxiety. Coming,
I know no one who
no one.
who has that.
In fact, I wrote a post the other day. It makes me mad how many people accept that as normal. What I hear when I'm talking to people is I'm like, on a scale of 1 to 10, what's your stress and anxiety level on a normal day? At 8,
Mm,
a 6, a 7. I'm sorry, that's not. I'm like, that shouldn't be okay for anybody.
Right.
It's not okay. Your health takes a hit, your relationships take a hit, your mind is constantly wandering into other fears and unknowns and things like that. You're missing out on the present moment.
yeah.
That's the key. So really and truly, if you think about it, what I help people to do is I teach them to train their mind to be able to focus, get rid of the stress, anxiety, the chaos, become more focused, more centered, more in the present moment, where they can actually start to enjoy their life.
I I have such a visceral reaction to that. I love this saying. I violently agree with you on everything you just said. But it's, and I don't know if it's a product of the time we're living in, or what it is, but the fact that so many of us are walking around at such a high level
Yes.
of anxiety.
Yes.
And it's in our conversations. It's in, I mean, the number of conversations I have in a day where
Yes.
someone's just talking about their anxiety, the number of times I bring it up about myself.
Yes. You'll even say to yourself, I'm so stressed out.
Yeah.
But think about all of the different things. Times have changed. You know, I'm not discounting the way it was when we were younger, or when our parents were in our age group and that sort of thing. Times have changed. Think about like when it used to mean when you could travel on a plane and the door shut and you were able to read a good book and you were not checking your phone,
Right.
checking your email on your laptop, working on a presentation. It's changed. We don't have the amount of breaks that we used to have.
That's true.
So we have to find ways then to have those breaks throughout the day, to be able to stop our mind from going off to worst case scenario, pull it back in, stopping on like social media and saying, today I'm not going to do this. At one point I had what I called technology unplugged Sundays. And I texted
Oh.
my friends and said, hey, you're not going to hear from me tomorrow. I'm not going to pick up my phone at all. I'm not picking up my laptop. I'm not picking up, maybe I watch TV. But being able to just say enough is enough. We have enough we call it overload in the hypnotherapy industry, enough overload coming at us. We have to learn to control that ourselves because nobody's going to do it for us.
Well, that's true.
No.
That's true. So I want to ask you a question that I've already asked you, but with a little different,
Okay.
little different spin. If you were talking to 25-year-old you, what would you tell yourself? Or what would you tell another 25-year-old to, how do you keep yourself while you're young and you're still learning from getting to the point where anxiety is running your life, from getting to the point that the stress becomes, I mean, how can we start to change this dynamic, starting with the younger people and getting them, to grow up so that they're not having to experience what we're experiencing?
I think it's first off, it's finding things that you enjoy doing and being able to make sure that you're incorporating that in everyday life. Music is my thing. I am a huge music person. Music can like send me like through the rafters. It's just so empowering it's just powerful. But finding something that you enjoy, putting it in everyday life, finding different practices. And I know it's so hard. If I'm thinking about 25-year-old Doree, she was a hot mess. But if I were to say to her, find some time to find quiet, find some time to do some self-care. What does self-care mean for a 25-year-old? I don't even know. But finding things to do. And another thing for me that is do things from where your tank is full and not empty. And that is one of the key things is I think we go so much, we don't fill our own tanks up and then we're giving from an empty cup. So find things that restore you, even if it's, hey, I may have to miss out on this party this weekend, but I need to go in and find a way to restore, and just being able to feel it in your body and being able to acknowledge that and then being able to do something about it.
Well, and you may say, okay, well, what does this have to do with leadership? It has everything to do with leadership, because you can't be a great leader if you're empty yourself.
Yes.
You can't support other people
Right.
if you're operating off of an anxiety level that's like through the roof.
Absolutely.
So it's so important that and there's a principle in the military, and in business, like, leaders eat first. And you can interpret that any way you want to, but it's basically you fill yourself up first.
Yes.
When the mask drops down on the airplane,
That's it.
you put it on yourself first, because if you lose oxygen, you can't
help
help
anybody
anyone else.
You can, and I remember a time when I was a younger manager and I had a team of, oh my gosh, 69 people that reported to me. And I was stressed. I was stressed out. We had a lot of, it was a lot of hours. I was working 80 hours a week. I was getting pulled with constant demands from upper management on doing something different, doing this while trying to motivate a team. And I will tell you, one of the most impactful moments to me was we had a group that came in and did an evaluation, the 360 view of how you are as a manager and all of that stuff. And the common thing that came back to me was Doree's too busy.
Oh.
Doree is too busy. Doree is too stressed. I don't want to go to Doree.
It's a manager,
It's
it's a
very-
leader. Yeah,
It broke my heart.
I can imagine.
It really broke my heart because I felt the tug, the pull. I
Mhm.
want to be there for them 100%, but I can't because I've got all this other stuff.
Right.
Something had to give. And hearing that was sort of my aha moment of, okay, put it down, put down whatever I'm working on right now. Just go around and say hello to everybody and say, and really just, and it helped me. So me just going around and, hey, how are you doing? Helped me to take a break,
Right.
and to be able to see, people's kids and, bringing in, different treats and things like that. And just becoming more human
Right.
to the people that were reporting to me, I think it makes such a huge difference.
Oh my gosh, that is such, because it really is truly all about relationships.
Everything is.
Everything.
Everything. Yeah. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. So when you think through your career, do you, can you put, is there anything you can point to where you can say that really is like one of my proudest moments as a leader?
Mhm.
And there may not be one thing.
There are quite a few, but I will say this. There was a point with a company that I was working for, we had a lot of contractors. And of that 69 I was talking about, probably about 50 of them were contractors.
Oh, wow.
Then corporate came through and said, we're changing the way, how long you can have a contractor on board. And that number changed all the time. So we had people that were with us 3 to 5 years. And I find out on a Thursday, they have to go on Friday
Wow.
and be gone for 6 months before they could come back. So I had to have this conversation with, of that 50, let's just say 40 of them.
Wow.
Well, I'll try to backfill and make sure there was no speed bumps along the way, but having that conversation with those individual contractors, one of my proudest moments when they said, how long do we have to be gone? I said, 6 months. We'll wait.
Oh,
We'll wait. Doree, contact us in 5 months into our contract, us being gone. Let us know what the landscape looks like. And if you can see it's gonna be wide open for me to start in 6 months, I'm in.
wow.
One of my proudest moments. And I was able to bring a majority of them back. And so that was a really, really just amazing experience to know that they were willing to do that, to come back because they enjoy the environment
Right.
that we created. It wasn't all me, that we created together, and they didn't want to let it go. It was
That's
amazing.
special.
It was amazing.
That is pretty special. Yeah. So that's awesome. What a great story to wrap up on. I love that. So I appreciate you being here today. You have shared such fantastic insights, and I'm excited to share this with the audience. Before we go though, I do have one last question for you. What's next for you?
What's next? Well, continuing to work on my coaching.
Okay.
And building my coaching business. That's become such a passion of mine. It's one of those things now that if someone said to me, you can't do this anymore, I really think that I would struggle. It's really, really important to me. And, just continuing to journey down that path as I continue to work on myself. I'm always a work in progress and just never giving up. And so for me, I don't know what else that holds. Maybe another book, speaking, all of those types of things. But yeah, I look forward to it. I try not to predict too much of what it's going to be like because I enjoy the adventure and the journey along the way. And sometimes when I have my goals set in stone, I lose the view from the ride.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Couple of things I do want to bring up. Number one, you are a published author. So
Yes.
tell us the name of your book and where they can find it if they want to read more about you.
Yeah, it's called Seriously How I Went from a Hot Mess to a Daring Badass. And it is about my journey through sobriety. Of getting sober and the lessons that I learned in finding my sobriety.
That is awesome. I have read the book. It is very, very good.
Thank
So I highly recommend it. You can find it on Amazon.
On Amazon,
right?
yes. Mhm.
Right. Okay. And we can drop the link into the show notes for the podcast. That's so we'll do that. The other thing is, and you touched on it, you're also a speaker.
Yes.
So if anyone out there is looking for someone to come in and talk about stress and anxiety or mindset,
Yeah.
anything else, I mean, Doree is available for that. So
Thank you so much.
and how can they find you?
You can find me at www.therealdoreo.com.
Okay.
I'm also on social media, The Real Doree O. And The Real Doree O is because of my journey in finding myself. And that's why I chose the name of the company. And that's really ultimately what I think we're all looking for.
I love it. I love it. So we'll drop those links in as well. So so reach out to Doree if you are looking for help with any of those things that we talked about. So thank you so much for joining
you.
us. It's been a great conversation.
Yes,
I
it has.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thank you to the audience for listening. And until next time, this has been the podcast for Leadership Portraits. Thank you.
Thank you.